McNuggets, anything else before we dive in? Because I'm ready to go.
Let's get into it.
We got a great
lineup
lineup
lot of
today.
stuff to talk about.
Yesterday, we looked at the Browns offense versus the Panthers defense. That was a fun conversation. But this is where the real meat is. This is where this football game is going to be most interesting. It's the Panthers offense and Baker Mayfield against the Browns defense. What did you call it in the text? I know you bowl.
It's the familiarity bowl.
The familiarity
I know you
bowl.
however you want to call it.
I mean, Baker's gone against this defense every day in practice for years.
Yep.
The defense, most of those guys have been there. They know his tendencies. Do you think that one has an advantage over the other?
I would definitely say that the Browns have the advantage in this for the simple fact that Carolina's offensive line is terrible, and you have one of the best edge rushers, two of the best edge rushers in the game.
Right.
I think this game solely depends on if they can get home. Now, if the defensive tackles can come in there and get that pass rush in the middle, it would be like stealing for the Browns. And I think the fact that they know that Baker's arm he showed a pretty good arm in preseason. A couple of throws he did thread it in there, but I still would test it and see if he still got it like that when it's.
You want to move him off his spot too, right?
Right. So I would play coverage very tight on this back end, which I believe they will do, and I will send some blitzes. I was actually on my podcast last night talking about, Baker likes to get out of the pocket because he's short, so you want to move the pocket so he can see it. I wouldn't be surprised if they send some nickel blitzes or some corner blitzes where if he rolls out to it, the blitz is coming. He'll run right into the blitz. That's what I would do if I was Joe Woods in this game.
Interesting.
I'll tell you what, man. I was watching some of the stuff that we were talking about before. I was watching a little bit of film. And I went back to the game they played the San Francisco 49ers, right? And when they played the 49ers, it was a couple of years ago, it was out west.
Yep.
And the 49ers destroyed the Browns.
Yes, they did.
And what they did was just, and you just said it, they didn't give them opportunity to get any clean reads. So when you come out and you're playing zone, you can guess right a few times. You can get your rhythm. And you know what Baker is. He's a rhythm-type quarterback.
Right, yep.
And when he starts to see it, he starts to feel it. Now he's moving the ball, and then he gets to a place where he's sprinkling the football around, and that's when he's the best version of himself. But when you give him that press man, and he has to have tight throws, and he's has to have throws when he's getting tackled or hit, it's trouble. That is what the Browns need to do, and I don't want Joe Woods to get lulled into sleep, into thinking that we're going to start off easy and ease into the game plan. You got to hit Baker Mayfield from get-go. Not second half adjustments. It's now. And I know that he's tempted to say, I can get home with 4. Yes, you can get home with 4.
That was his thing last year.
Yes, you can get home with 4.
But
at what cost of him getting rotated into a rhythm? I'm bringing the pressure. I want him every single snap to have to think about what's my number one read, what coverage are they in, is the blitz here, what's the protection? Because when that happens, Baker Mayfield's mechanics break down. He starts doing things and then he starts seeing ghosts a little bit. But none of that happens if you're not bringing it.
So you'd go with Tyvis. You think that the Browns defense has the edge over Baker in the familiarity?
Yes.
Okay.
Guys, we talk about the players having familiarity, but what about the coaches? Jay Feely brought this up yesterday, right? A coach is going to know a player better than a player knows a coach. Right, generally. Maybe Tom Brady's an exception or Peyton Manning, but generally
he has a better understanding of that player's weaknesses, and that's where Baker doesn't believe he has weaknesses.
Exactly.
Stefanski knows exactly where they are.
Joe Woods, Alex Van Pelt, they know Baker probably better than he knows himself, honestly. And so even beyond, which I agree with these guys, that the defense, and I agree with what John Johnson said, I believe it was Monday, when he said, hey, there's 11 of us, one of them. But even beyond that, the coaching staff knows Baker so well. He's not going to change. He's maybe after a few years in Carolina or wherever he is the next few years, and there's the quote from John Johnson that I referenced, maybe Baker will adjust his game. But right now, he hasn't been in Carolina that long, hasn't practiced that much, hasn't played with how much could he change? We've seen publicly the way he talks doesn't seem like he's changed. I can't imagine his game has changed much. And here's the thing, guys, just bigger picture about the game. Usually when most of the public bets on one team, the public's wrong. When it's a huge percentage, right? A higher percentage of the public has bet on Carolina than all but one team. Only Denver has been bet on more this week than the public. And we're going to see this every week because the Browns are a hated football team in America. And Jacoby Brissett's not that good a quarterback.
Right.
So the rest of the team being really good is going to be overshadowed by Jacoby not being that good a quarterback. Everybody's betting heavy, and yet the line, as Mikey mentioned yesterday, went from 2.5 to 1.5.
Right.
Even though 80% of the public is betting on the Panthers. Why? Because the sharp bettors are betting on the Browns.
It's interesting that you said that Denver and Carolina are getting the most action.
Yes.
Because those
percentage-wise, not
percentage-wise.
total money,
I understand
yeah.
that. It's interesting to me because those are the two quarterbacks going against their old teams.
Right, that's true.
And so perhaps in the public's mind,
Yeah.
the quarterback has the advantage
That's right.
in that scenario. Before I give my thoughts, and I'm in line with you guys, I do think that the Browns defense definitely has the advantage. Yes, Baker has seen them in practice every day as well, but I think that when it comes to a quarterback's weaknesses, they know what they are, and they know how to exploit them. What Baker is going to do is to react to what the defense is doing. So I like the fact that the Browns defense will be leading the way on this. What they do will determine what Baker does. Tim Couch is normally with us on Mondays. Because we didn't do a show Monday, I wanted to reach out to him and get his thoughts. He's played the position. I wanted to know what he thought, and I'll read it exactly the way I sent it to him. Just wondering who has the bigger advantage on Familiarity Sunday, Baker on defense or defense on Baker? So it's very straightforward. He said, "Good morning, Jay. That's really tough because they both feel like they have an advantage because of the familiarity. But I would think Baker will have a slight advantage. He knows what certain DBs struggle with. He knows how they try to disguise coverages and blitzes. I just think for a quarterback, you feel so comfortable going into a game like this because you face that defense every day for 4 years in practice and know how to attack them. Can't wait to watch this Sunday." So he makes good points. Now, that's from a quarterback's point of view.
Sure.
You talk to a defensive player, Johnson said, look, there's 11 of us.
Right.
There's only one of him.
Yeah.
So I honestly think that we're probably making more of this than there really is. Yes, they're both going to be familiar with one another. I tend to think that it's going to wash itself out. But if I had to tip the scales here, I would still say I like the fact that there's 11 players on defense that knows what he likes to do and what he thinks.
And think about it also. Like, I think it depends on the quarterback specifically. Baker, as we mentioned, Brady and Manning. Like, when Brady goes to play the Patriots, in that case, I would say it's even or even an edge Brady because Brady's such an accomplished quarterback.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
A quarterback in Baker who is not anywhere near the quarterback of Brady. I would think with most quarterbacks, I would lean towards the defense. But with an elite quarterback who's been around the league forever playing against the whole team, I might change my mind.
Yeah. Now, the only difference is with Christian McCaffrey, he is the X factor here.
No doubt.
He will provide Baker with safety valve throws that he might ordinarily spend an extra second looking for the open receiver. If he's feeling a rush, he can dump it to McCaffrey, and I think that that's what we're going to see a lot of on Sunday. But I still think that the Browns defense has a slight advantage.
And Tyvis, you know this. It's all about breaking tendency. Yeah. Right? So, Baker knows, these guys usually do this. But way you could call it as a defensive coordinator is if you break tendency, you can bring pressure where they didn't think they were bringing pressure. You can play zone when you didn't think they were going to play zone. And so for Baker, for me, one of the things that's always universal, it doesn't matter if you know where the play is coming from or you know what's going to happen. For me, it's all about pressure. Yeah. You got 3 seconds to figure it out. and if it takes 3 seconds and you're playing close and you got guys like Denzel Ward who have tremendous recovery speed.
Right.
You got linebackers that have tremendous ability to get to their drops and run to the football. That's where Baker struggles because we already know what he do. If he get to after his second read, he's rolling out the pocket. And there's a lot of times Baker Mayfield runs into sacks. People say, well, they had a lot of pressure. Well, no, the pocket was there. And he also has a problem stepping up in the pocket because he's a little shorter and he can't get those lanes.
Right.
So it's get hands up, make sure that when he rolls out, now when he's rolling outside of those pockets, that's when he's off target. That's when he's flustered, and that's when the offense breaks down a little bit.
And that's why I continue to say, like you say, the pressure is the one. I mean, like with this defensive line, the way that they're coming after him, plus they're going to be much more motivated to get there, and it's game one, so the adrenaline is going to be there. I think the Carolina will have to figure out a way to throw screens, because if your offensive line can't block a defensive line, how do you change it up? You run draws, you run screens to try to slow them down. And that will be their only saving grace.
Will they attack the Browns linebacking core? Because as you look at their defense.
CMC is, that's going to obviously be what it is. Yeah. But after playing in this defense when I was in San Francisco, because obviously Joe Woods came from San Francisco, how we would do it is you would start off with a linebacker checking CMC, right? And if the linebacker starts struggling, JOK is actually like perfect because he's got
the athletic
right? And he's quick.
He should be able to hang with him. But if he does struggle, what they do is they switch who checks him. Now you make the safety do it. So whoever's the box safety, which we'll say is Grant, Dale Pitt, could be J3. I know this because when I was in San Fran and we played the Raiders, they had a running back where he was really good out the backfield on third downs. And they said, you know what, on this play, on third down, we going man, but you are the one checking the running back. And I ended up dropping the pick. We ain't even going to go into that story. Drop the pick, and the dude ended up catching it. Was bad.
If they go with JOK, you saying he's going to be shadowing McCaffrey on every play?
Not every. You can't do it every play, but anytime that they go man. So typically in this defense, you run 3 and 1 because it looks the same. You one high, you don't know if he's in 3 or 1. And if that's the case, when they go man, they will have him check.
And there's no way Baker will be able to tell that really until the ball's snapped, right?
Right. Because there's so many other things. If the line is the struggle.
Well, how are guys like Brady and Manning able to figure it out then? Because they can, right?
Well, so the Patriots used to always take that guy.
Yeah.
Start him out there. Come on over here. Let's see what they do.
Right.
If the linebacker's running with him, all right, they in man to man.
And the Browns do that.
Bumping,
the Browns do that some.
Zone. That's how that was how. If you ever watched the Patriots when Brady was playing, they always had somebody go motion out or come back in.
And that was the zone or man read.
Right.
But even then, I think to your point of, well, how did Brady and Manning?
Yeah.
I think Brady and Manning just had elite arm skills too.
Well, that's
so even if the windows get smaller, they're still able to put the ball where 95% of the other quartquarterbacks are not, and they're able to do it on a consistent basis.
I mean, the only time that I've ever seen Brady confused where he didn't know what they was in was when they played the Rams in the Super Bowl. He literally looked confused. He was just throwing blindly because he couldn't figure it out.
And I know you saw that one play. There's a time where Peyton Manning is talking about it with Ed Reed, right? And he's saying he's never been fooled on anything, right? So he said when they're playing, one high safety, if the safety is past the hash mark or he even bites or takes a step over there, he's automatically throwing backside. And Ed Reed
faked it.
Ed Reed just ran. He knew it.
He ran, didn't turn around and look, just ran to the receiver and picked it off deep down the field.
I've never seen. He was like, there's nobody over there. Let me run over there and then run back.
Yeah.
Usually when you get those guys, it's the film work. They understand where it's going, and they have a couple of plays they can get out of, right? So when you got Peyton Manning and they can call different audibles, they'll just say, well, look, I got screen called on that play. We thought it was man-to-man. Nope, it's zone. I don't like that anymore. Let's switch that up.
But fortunately for the Browns, they're not playing Peyton Manning this week. They're playing Baker Mayfield.
Thank God.
The last thing I'm going to say about it, though, is that Baker, if knowing that your offensive line is bad, as a quarterback, it's so many things you got to go through.
Well, it could be better. They've added it.
Yeah, but
on paper it should be better, but it was bad last year.
Right. So he got so much he got to come to the line. The number one thing that a
Plus
quarterback –
being with a new team.
Yeah, the number one thing a quarterback has to do is make sure that they're protected. So you got to go through the protections. And I talked to a quarterback, so I know a lot about this. If it's 50 protection, that's base protection. If one person's coming from the call side, we'll say it's the right side, then you got to check out. But if it's 2 coming from the slide side, which is the back side, now you got to check out. The next thing I'm thinking about is, well, do I want to check out of it or do I want to see if I can get my running back a free release? Because if they're blitzing,
he goes right by
I can just dump it. Yeah, I can just dump it right off.
And oftentimes those are big gainers too.
And that's what he'll be thinking with CMC. Yeah. How can I make this protection where I can get CMC on a free release? Because if nobody takes him, I'm going with the ball. I'm going to him with the ball. If
so
not,
with a guy like McCaffrey, you're almost better off staying in that.
Right.
Yeah.
And not checking out.
And that's a ton to think about.
That's what
such
and
little
then
time.
That's what
at warp
speed. On top of that, now I got to look at the defense and say, all right, now I know they look like they in cover 2, but on the snap it could be cover 3. So now I got to find out who's the safety that I think is coming down, because that's who I'm going to watch after I snap this ball to figure out what it is. Right. You got to do all that in 25 seconds.
How much do you think the Carolina defensive coaching staff, how much time did they spend with Baker this week going over exactly what it is that the Browns do? Because Baker knows that Browns defense like he's played in it for 4 years.
Well, it won't. They will have to do it on scout team. So on scout team they're going to be the ones where they're going to have the meetings and they're going to have guys be like the guys who Baker should look at. So in offensive meetings, they're like, Baker, this is your guy that you're looking at to figure out what coverage that they're in. When they go out to practice, he'll have the jersey on. So if it's J3, it'll be a guy with a 43 jersey on. And Baker will be looking at him, and you'll be like, oh, I'm the guy. Because I used to do it on scout team, like, oh, I must be the guy that you read because you're looking right at me. So that's how they'll figure out. That's how he'll kind of figure out who's the guy or the key he needs to look at to figure out the coverage.
Wow. And you mentioned McCaffrey before as the key. Obviously, we know he's a great player. And the reality is, you look at this Panthers offense, they've got 2 really good offensive players, right? They've got McCaffrey and they've got DJ Moore. That's it. That's all they got. I mean, everybody else there is
Anderson,
average or below.
I wouldn't sleep on Robbie Anderson. I wouldn't.
But he's average or below. I mean,
I don't think he's below average. I don't. No, in fact, I would think I would think that Robbie Anderson is average or slightly above average.
I think he's above average.
I don't agree, but
because of the speed.
He's a big playmaker.
Well, because of speed, right?
Well, we can agree to disagree.
I wouldn't ignore him if I'm Cleveland's defense.
I wouldn't ignore him. You don't ignore anybody.
No, but
if not a special player. You have to deal with 2 special players, McCaffrey and DJ Moore. Okay. Robbie Anderson, to me, is just a guy. You guys think he's a little better, okay. But I'm saying, like, they don't have a tight end. They don't have, like, another running back that you're really worried about, like the Browns do.
I think it's McCaffrey. I really do think that that's it.
Their quarterback's not exceptional. So if you could, you can't shut down McCaffrey. He doesn't really have bad
but you
games,
can limit him.
But just don't let him have a great game.
If he has one of his trademark great games, I think it's a long Sunday for the Browns. Yesterday we asked the guys, and you weren't here, what's the number? How many points will the Browns have to score?
Oh, I said 21. I got.
You think it's that high?
21-17.
Yeah, 21.
Okay,
that's 20.
Well, we actually. Bull said he thought that Carolina was going to score 17, so his number was 18.
Yeah.
So 18 would get it done.
Yeah. Actually, to be truthful, guys, I think, and see if you agree with me, I actually think that when Baker is spreading the ball around, he's more dangerous. The games that he's been dominant, even go back to college. I remember watching that game. You had Joey Bosa in one of the best defensive lines I've seen in a long time at Ohio State.
It was Nick Bosa. Joey was wrong with
Nick. Sorry, Nick Bosa. Now, think about this. He didn't have anything. He had a fullback named Flowers. He had Mark Andrews. No real receiver.
He had one receiver that had a big game.
Mark Andrews is a really good player.
Right,
but he was with Brown too.
Somebody say Hollywood.
Yeah, Brown was there. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
But he never targeted any one specific person. It was here. I'll get the fullback involved. When OBJ was to go out, and I used to hate when people say, well, Baker plays the best when he's throwing the different receivers, when he plays the Bengals. Mm-hmm. And when he's spreading the football around, that's when he's at his best. I would almost want him to lock on to McCaffrey.
But that's not.
Lock him on.
That's why it didn't work in Cleveland, because of the Odell situation. Yep. But when Odell went down in the Cincinnati game where he had his best game, he was spreading it to everybody. So I think the person that we forgetting about is still Higgy. He's going to be.
Well, I was just going to ask you about him.
Nobody's saying nothing
there's
about
also
him, but
revenge.
he is a problem.
He loves the big stage.
Yeah.
And you know that he's got a measure of revenge that he'd like to extract as well. I wonder what kind of role he's going to play, because Baker and Higgins had an incrable relationship during their time together in Cleveland.
I think he's going to get touches. Every time
he always
Hollywood is always open. You just don't throw it to him.
You know how much they want to roll the red carpet out in Carolina against the Browns? They might get a penalty for taking too long on the celebration. They might get a late game penalty. He might do some extra stuff.
We've got to do internet reaction, right?
We got to do internet reaction. We'll bring Leroy in. We asked the YouTube chat, by the way, who has the advantage, Baker or the Browns defense. We had 260 votes. 83% said the Browns defense. So
we're a little biased.
Yeah, I always put those with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
it's like asking them who's going to win.